Okay, so let's maybe start with Alyosha. He's often seen as the main religious figure.
Yeah, definitely the starting point for faith in the novel. He spends that time in the monastery.
And he's got that close bond with the elder Zosima. The text even calls it unquestioning faith in the miraculous power of the elder.
That initial picture, yeah, it's one of almost pure, maybe slightly naive faith,
Yeah.
tied very closely to Zosima.
But it's Dostoevsky, so it's not that simple, right?
Exactly. That's the thing. It's not static. Even Alyosha, you see hints of doubt, of questioning.
Like Zosima's idea of active love later on. Alyosha's initial faith seems more passive, reliant.
Well put. Reliant on the elder. And the story definitely tests that reliance, pushes him to maybe transform it.
Yeah, you see those cracks, don't you? Especially after Zosima died.
Oh, absolutely.
The text mentions him murmuring against him, which feels so human. You know, loss, no miracle.
It's a very real reaction. And his talks with Even, they clearly shake him up too. That harassing impression it talks about.
So even the most devout aren't, like, immune.
Not at all. And those moments are crucial, I think. They show that maybe real faith isn't about never doubting, but about, sticking with it despite the doubts.
And his basic goodness, his compassion, like with the captain and Alyosha, that seems to stay, even when Zosima's gone.
Yes, which raises that question, doesn't it? Is faith about intellectual certainty, or is it more about actions, relationships?
That's a really good question. Now, you mentioned the elder Zosima. The text talks about elders in Russian monasteries. These weren't just regular monks, were they?
No. The elder or starets is a really significant figure in Orthodox tradition. Spiritual guides, confessors. People believe they had real wisdom, insight into your soul.
So people would seek them out for guidance, moral help.
Exactly. Moral regeneration, direction in life. It was a big deal, a kind of spiritual anchor for many.
Though the sources also mention some pushback, that line about confession being frivolously degraded.
Right. Like any institution, it wasn't without its critics or controversies. Even within the church, there were differing views on some practices.
Interesting. But Zosima himself is presented as, well, almost the ideal elder.
Very much so. He's described as having this almost uncanny ability to see into people's hearts, know their secrets.
And people felt, what, joy, relief after talking to him.
Yeah, profound relief.
Yeah.
And he wasn't stern or judgmental, apparently. Surprisingly, almost gay, it says, and drawn to sinners.
What does that tell us about what people needed from faith back then?
It suggests a real deep hunger for spiritual guidance, I think, and a belief in transformation and redemption guided by these figures.
Which brings us to his teachings. The excerpts mention things like universal responsibility. What exactly is that?
Yes. That's really central to Zosima. It's this radical idea, really, that we're all responsible for everyone else, for their sins, even their thoughts in a way.
Wow. So not just connected, but actually accountable.
Accountable. He talks about these hidden threads connecting everyone. All are responsible for all, he says. It completely changes how you think about judging others, right?
Absolutely. And there are other themes, too, like what makes a true monk?
Yes, and his idea wasn't just about living in a monastery. He stressed active love, humility, avoiding pride.
Love even for enemies, atheists.
Exactly. It's about embodying that Christ-like love out on the world. The monastic principles should guide everyone, ideally. And confession, for him, wasn't just ticking a box, but real honesty.
Then comes his death, which is such a pivotal moment, isn't it? Really testing everyone's faith.
Hugely pivotal. Because there's this massive expectation of miracles, proof of his sainthood.
Right. They thought his body wouldn't decay, maybe.
Something like that, the classic sign of holiness.
But instead, well, there's the scandal, the smell of decomposition.
Oof. How did that challenge people's ideas of faith?
Well, it's a stark reminder that faith doesn't always give you the neat, miraculous signs you might want.
Yeah.
It forces a confrontation with, the messy reality of death. It challenges that perhaps superficial idea of holiness. Was their faith only strong if they saw a miracle? The scandal really exposes that fragility, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
Especially when you compare it to Father Ferapont's reaction.
Oh, yeah, the other monk. He sees it as God's judgment, right?
Exactly. A totally different interpretation. Much more rigid, maybe punitive. A real contrast to Zosima's love and compassion.
And that kind of sets up the conflict for someone like Ivan.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
Because Ivan is wrestling intellectually, spiritually, especially with suffering.
The suffering of children, particularly, he just can't accept a God who allows that for some future payoff.
That's the core of his rebellion, isn't it? It's a moral outrage.
And his parable, The Grand Inquisitor, that's his big statement.
Oh, it's huge. It tackles freedom versus authority, critiques how organized religion, in his view, might trade Christ's real message for control, for keeping people, well, comfortable.
He questions if the church gives people security instead of real, hard-won freedom and faith.
Precisely. The Inquisitor basically argues people can't handle true freedom. They want miracles, mystery, authority. It raises these timeless questions about human nature, spiritual authority.
But even Ivan, after all that, he still tells Alyosha he believes in God, just not his world.
Yes. Yeah. And that conflict is just so Dostoevsky, so human. The intellect rejects, but something else believes or wants to.
He wants Alyosha to heal him, right? It shows belief isn't just logic.
Definitely not. That intellect and belief aren't always aligned, which, is different again for Dmitri.
Dmitri. His struggles are less intellectual, more passionate, sensual.
Very much so. He's got that Karamazov fire, the sensuality, leading to all sorts of moral problems.
Yeah, quite the mess. But even in that chaos, he has these moments, doesn't he? Reaching out to Alyosha for a truth, solace.
Many moments, yes. His path is more about that struggle, falling down and getting back up, driven by passion, not reason.
And then there's the father, Fyodor Pavlovich, who seems like the complete opposite of faith.
Oh, absolutely. He's the cynic, the buffoon, mocking religion, always looking out for number one.
He just seems to represent spiritual emptiness, especially in that scene with Zosima where he's just performing, being disrespectful.
Exactly. He acts as a foil, highlighting hypocrisy, the potential to manipulate religion. He challenges the sincerity of everyone else, really.
And finally, there's that bit about judgment. Zosima's visitor saying you can't judge a criminal without seeing yourself in them.
Yeah, that ties back to the universal responsibility idea, shared humanity, shared sinfulness. This is a really profound take on judgment.
Zosima believed even monks become isolated if the people are isolated.
Right. It emphasizes that faith isn't just a private thing. It's tied up with community, with how we treat each other.
So looking at all these characters, it's just this incredibly rich, complicated picture of God and faith.
You've got it all. Devotion, doubt, rebellion, the struggles of just being human.
And Dostoevsky, he doesn't really wrap it up neatly, does he?
Not at all. That's the power of it. He lays out these different paths, these intense struggles, and kind of leaves us, the readers, to wrestle with it all. The complexity of faith in a world that's both beautiful and, well, full of suffering.
Which leads us back to you, listening. Thinking about this whole spectrum, Alyosha, Ivan, Zosima, Dmitri, Fyodor, what parts of their struggles with faith, or lack of it, really connect with you?
Yeah, what questions does it stir up for you about belief or unbelief? It's definitely a conversation that sticks with you.
Hopefully this deep dive gives you a good foundation, maybe some things to think about further.
A starting point, exactly, for exploring these huge, enduring questions about humanity and the divine that Dostoevsky just portrays so brilliantly.